There is more going on in the state of Connecticut than at any previous time that I have appeared on this show. Just a few weeks ago, our state Supreme Court, 4 unelected judges undemocratically forced same-sex marriage on the state of Connecticut. This is something that's come up over and over and over again in our legislature for the last however many years, several years now. And even a legislature as liberal as ours in Connecticut has one of the most left-wing liberal state legislatures in the country. And even this legislature, Corinn, has said over and over again no to same-sex marriage. Right. In fact, just 3 years ago, it explicitly passed a law explicitly defining marriage as between a man and a woman. But 4 judges on our state Supreme Court, one of them isn't even a Supreme Court justice, 4 judges behaving as if they were our robed masters, our philosopher kings, have just reached down from on high and said, and we saw this with Roe v. Wade on the federal level, didn't we, 35 years ago? 4 judges just reached down and said, you know what, the really big questions in American democracy, what is the sanctity of human life, what is the definition of marriage, we'll reach down from on high, we your robed masters, we'll take those really big questions out of the democratic process, we'll decide them for you, and you little people with your elected representatives, well, they can focus on filling the potholes in your streets. We'll decide all the really big questions for you. So this outrageous usurping of democracy, I mean, marriage by itself is huge, is very important, but even beyond marriage, our very right to govern ourselves. I mean, in Connecticut, this was something that they said couldn't be done in the deep blue state of Connecticut, that we had these victories at the legislature, that we defeated same-sex marriage over and over and over again. And our court has just said to us, no, even this victory is going to be denied to you. We're going to decide all the big questions. So where does that leave us? What can we do? Well, we have an election a week from today, Tuesday, November 4th. There will be a question on the ballot in Connecticut. This question will not appear again for 20 years. This is our one opportunity, maybe, to overturn what the state Supreme Court did. Question 1 on the ballot asks, shall there be a constitutional convention to amend or revise the Constitution of the state? It is urgent that everyone watching out there in television and all your friends and family, everyone you can talk to, urgent that the public votes yes on question 1 on Election Day for a constitutional convention.
Now, what exactly does that do? I mean, that's not going to reverse any of the laws that we already have, but what does the Constitution Convention do for us if we say yes? And, you know, is this something, you say it happens every 20 years, do they often vote yes, or, you know, is this the first time that...
Right. It happens every 20 years. So if we blow this opportunity, if we don't get a majority to vote yes, then that's it. We won't see an opportunity like this again in 20 years.
Wow.
You asked, does this happen every 20 years? This unique feature of our state constitution comes out of the 1965 state constitution. That's when they introduced this question. You know, the people who framed the state constitution that we're living under now from the 60s, they said it was their idea that there ought to be periodic review, that the public ought to have an opportunity once every 20 years, if it so chooses, to review the Constitution, have some sort of constitutional review. This question has only appeared on the ballot one other time. It was 1986. There was no organized yes campaign like there is now. There was an organized no campaign. And, you know, for those who have been around in Connecticut a long time may remember, we were all a lot happier with the state of Connecticut and with state government in 1986 than I think we are now. You know, beginning in the early 90s with a huge recession that Connecticut has never really recovered from. I mean, who now remembers G. Fox, Sage Allen, D&L? I mean, businesses that had been around forever in Connecticut. Tens of thousands of jobs lost that were never really recovered. Then we had the income tax. And since the early 90s, we've gone through a really difficult period in Connecticut. And now, for the first time, now that the go-go days of the 80s are behind us and we're in really difficult times, now this question appears on the ballot, and providentially it appears 3 weeks after one of the most outrageous attacks on democratic self-government that we have ever had in Connecticut. So, in answer to your question, no, a constitutional convention would not immediately change any laws in Connecticut, but it would allow us the opportunity to do so. What would happen is, if there is a yes vote, a constitutional convention would be held. Whatever amendments to the state constitution come out of that convention then go to the people for us to vote it up or down.
Individual amendments.
Individual amendments. The goal of Family Institute of Connecticut, and we have formed a coalition with several other groups, including now the Catholic Church, and I'll get to that in a moment because that's a whole issue in itself. But Family Institute, we formed a coalition with several other groups for the sole purpose of getting out of the Constitutional Convention, getting a yes vote, vote yes on question 1, getting out of the Constitutional Convention a right of initiative, what's called direct initiative. This is what they have in California and so many other states, where the people are allowed some direct say over the laws. Most states have this. Connecticut's in the minority. What this means is that if you get so many thousands of signatures, you can place a measure directly on the ballot for the people to vote it up or down. To take California as an example, if you gather signatures that equal 5% of the number of people who voted in the last election for governor, you can put a measure on the ballot to pass a statute directly. If you get a number of signatures to equal 8% of the people who voted in the last governor election, you can put a measure on the ballot to amend the state constitution.
Ooh.
That is a remedy that the people of California had when their state court last May forced same-sex marriage. Same thing, 4-3 vote. When their state court forced same-sex marriage on California, in California, the people had a remedy. They gathered the signatures. They put a measure on the ballot. This November 4th, next week, they'll have an opportunity to just directly overturn that decision.
And let the people decide.
Right, let the people decide. Now, in Connecticut, we don't have that remedy. What we're fighting for is the right to have that remedy, and then Family Institute will come back and use it to undo this horrible, horrible thing that our state Supreme Court has done. So what we want is, most importantly, I cannot say it enough, we want a yes vote for question 1 for a constitutional convention. Everyone needs to vote yes on Election Day on question 1 for a constitutional convention. If we get that, Family Institute and our allies, Federation of Connecticut Taxpayer Organizations, other groups, we will try to get direct initiative out of the Constitutional Convention. If we get that, then Family Institute and our pro-family allies, the Catholic Church and others, we will try to use that process, as they're using it in California, to restore traditional marriage, to take back our very right to self-government in Connecticut, which has been so brutally and lawlessly taken away from us by the Supreme Court.
I